Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Ryden. Across the street from us here in Georgia, there's a house being rehabbed. And when a house is fixed up like that, it makes for a better community. Now, I'm joined on Global Book Network today by Cornelius Joseph. And like the people across our street here in Georgia, Cornelius currently works on rehabbing residential houses. And in his own way, he's doing what he can to make his community better, not only from the looks of the house on the outside, but for the people inside those houses and for his community. He's written a deeply personal book titled Lifestyle of a God in My Brother's Eyes, a coming of age story from the inner city. Welcome, Cornelius, to Global Book Network.
Thank you, Paul.
Now,
Thank you,
you grew
Paul.
up in East St. Louis, Illinois, and you're still there now. What was that experience like? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I grew up in the working community, blue collar workers. My mom, she used to work like hotels and restaurants. I was a child. I have one brother and two sisters. They're all 18 years old. So my mom had me when she was like 40. So
Wow.
I'm the youngest. Uh-huh. So I took up carpentry like when I was maybe 25. And started rehabbing houses. Um, Growing up, it was difficult, but I have a very strong family. We A lot of women in my family. They kept the glue while the men pretty much worked.
Mhm.
So it was pretty much like we came from Mississippi. So where men worked during the sharecropping days, they took care of the women. So as progression came on, and we during the civil rights movement, we moved to East St. Louis. My family did, and they worked like Swiss Packing House, the railroads, Chrysler Motors, like that. But the women were more like housewives at the time.
Right.
So I had a very close knit family, mostly middle class, some of the working poor, but it was okay. I attended high school in East St. Louis, Illinois. It was a bustling city because it was big on sports. Football and basketball was the biggest sports here. Still is, thus
Sure.
far.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And, and now the city has like kind of started like fleecing. So what I'm trying to do is bring back a certain renaissance,
Uh-huh.
something that the spark of
Mhm.
a movement where the city rises back to its original state back like the 70s when
Sure.
everything was pretty big.
Now, of course, this isn't a book about rehabbing houses. This is a book about rehabbing communities. What did you see in that experience growing up in East St. Louis that would make for a book that would help others?
Well, I was actually saw how the elders were moving on to a higher place, maybe spirituality, and I saw the youth trying to find their own identity in the world. So most of my learning came from the elders. So, like I say, wisdom, spirituality. So, as far as the youth were concerned, a lot of things started taking place where you had this vicious cycle, ignorance, poverty, substance abuse, sickness, death, you know. So I started analyzing like different groups, how the subservient ways of life took place, like gangs,
Mhm.
drug abuse. And I saw how I started depriving the community. So for me to be a voice in the community, I decided to write this book, Lifestyle of a God in My Brother's Eyes, which is a journey, coming of age, small, short story read, so to speak. And it addresses a lot of the crises that's taking place, like national, like what we see now in the media as far as news are concerned, like that, like violence. So I try to come up with an antidote or some type of solution to the problem instead of dealing with like the politics of how to deal with it. More like a social thing as far as the community is concerned.
Now, you could have written it any a variety of ways. You could have written it as a memoir. You could have written it as a nonfiction book, but you chose a narrative form.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
what does that look like, and why did you choose that form?
Well, the reason why I choose a narrative form because I want to take it in a perspective of a journey. Like I may use a historian such as like Andrew Carnegie,
Mhm.
because I try to look at my roots where they were from an aggregatized society. So once we moved to a city, East St. Louis, which crossed the river from St. Louis, Missouri, from the Mississippi,
Mhm.
I thought that using guys like Andrew Carnegie, like it was already built up, the steel mills during the times of the WPA. I try to use like history.
Mhm.
Then I start utilizing like certain historians where progression periods took place, where you may use like Dr. Martin Luther King's marches, whereby it helped bring about a certain change. Because I talks about what my family went through in Mississippi, such as like segregation, like that. So as times went on, as laws got passed, I started trying to apply it to today.
Mhm.
So it's based mainly in the early '90s when I came of age of understanding of how my society worked.
Yeah. Do you work fiction into it, like kind of a historical fiction? You're following a story of a fictional character through actual historic times?
What well actually I don't have any characters. Like I said, from a narrative perspective, like basically your thoughts of
Uh-huh.
journeying, and then you when you come across something, you'll utilize a historian that may once was there or existed, and
Hmm.
you apply that person to the times of now because they may have the better solution at that time. Such as like W.E.B. Du Bois. He helped establish the NAACP. So I may have a quote by him and
Yes.
apply it to society, which may suffer from something that may happen in the past, which he may had a solution to it.
Now you talk
I may,
about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, go right ahead. Go right
No,
ahead.
I was just going to say that you talk about the elders and the importance of learning from the past. Do
Yes.
you find that a lot of young people kind of ignore history at
Hmm.
their peril to say,
Hmm.
we need to learn from them, otherwise we're going to make some of the same mistakes. Did you
Yes,
bring that
that's
out in
correct.
your book?
Yes, that's correct. I talks about like how music, like hip hop music,
Hmm.
whether it's tasteful or distasteful. Then I try to apply an historian, like I may say, I may mention Eminem, a current artist,
Okay.
but he may have stated, or made a record or a song about a certain issue or topic. I apply it to how the youth may live. The elders may have moved on, but they have a grandeur knowledge, and they may give me some information where I may come up with another historian, like perhaps Malcolm X or Queen Elizabeth II or Edgar Casey. So I try to put certain intellectuals because the language we use today could be of a low order where people cursing a lot, where you can't organize or articulate your statements. So my book try to help guide people through a certain journey and also open their eyes to see life through different eyes, whether they're present today or passed on, but they left a certain amount of information where we can thrive from.
Well,
And
that's
that'll
quite a
help.
wide variety. That's quite a wide variety of people. Queen Elizabeth to Edgar Casey, the
Uh-huh.
mentalist, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's something. Can you share a moment in the book that best illustrates this coming of age journey?
Yes, I can read a short poem to you.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. And it's in chapter two, the end of chapter two. It's
Mhm.
It states, aimless thoughts in my mind dance along a whirling breeze. At twilight time, spun leaves shook from branched out trees, earth toning the ground then freeze as the winds whistled, summoned by fall shivering pleas.
Mm.
So I wrote this poem in the book to explain like how times are changing, people coming and going, fall shivering please. Like we don't want this person to leave, but they leave something. We pleading for it. We pleading for it, and somehow we may have to bring it back into reality.
Yeah.
Cause I look at my country and my hometown like there's a bounty of information and wealth here. We just have to re-tap back into it, and that's why I utilize Edgar Casey,
Mm.
uh, the Sleeping Prophet, one of the most interesting human beings I've ever read. So
Yeah.
when I put him in the book, it really brought back something like a more America can have that spark once again, and have to have that belief system back in place. Because I came up at an age where the equal rights movement was really moving. You know, marriages went down. So I came up at that time so I could somehow apply a certain knowledge where, hey, this worked better than this.
Mhm.
Marriage was strong with two people in the house because I
Mhm.
came from a single parent household,
Right.
but I always had a father. And I'm thankful for that gift because he helped me guide me through this journey. And that's why I applied a lot of those historians to the book so that when people, if they don't have parents, they can look at that historian that may have a parenting gene that sparks the mind.
Hmm.
And
Well, we often talk about having a national conversation around social change and that sort of thing. D- How is this book going to contribute to that conversation?
well, because it brings about norms of social change, like I stated earlier about the vicious cycle of apathy, ignorance, poverty. I think that was plaguing our society because we focus so much on wealth, and
Mhm.
wealth is material. But if we focus on our innate abilities and see what our country really needs as a whole, we won't have to focus on gender, race. We see more of an organic way of living instead of being so computerized and programmed.
Mhm.
So most of these historians came before we got the computer or the internet, you
Right.
know. So I try to stay natural, more of a Native American sense, because we all share those common values, you know.
Have
And
you ever
and
thought of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
uh, and I also thought that by America being a melting pot,
Mhm.
uh, people can come together now. We all have people in every ethnicity that contribute to that American fabric. And
Mhm.
what it did to them, it can do the same for us. And that's why I have this book, Brother's Eyes. And I think it's going to take a lot of men to bring this about.
Yeah, I noticed it was brothers, plural,
Hmm.
brothers' eyes, not just one brother. It was
Right.
brothers' eyes. So a lot of brothers contributing to that. And boy, it's so important to learn from the past. Have you ever thought about running for office?
Uh, I try to think about it, but I kind of saw myself kind of like a freedom fighter. It's like what's happening today is like I look at the political arena, and I think there is a rise to something that's going to eclipse the political arena. If you study ancient history, you may not have Democrats and Republicans back then, like the Ottoman Empire or the acquisitions or the Renaissances.
Mhm.
So I look at it like, hey, there's something that's about to eclipse something going on in life or something changing in the climate of consciousness on this planet, whereby we as Americans, we have access to this and we can help change the world because everybody has something to contribute. But when you look at media, you see more like war or famine, perhaps. But this planet is so bountiful, and it'd be impossible for me to perceive that we're on the decline.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, I, I just can't imagine it.
Now,
You know,
now the book's been out for a while. What kind of response have you gotten from readers?
I've gotten a sympathetic reaction that a lot of elder people that read it, it said it took them back to a time period when they were like perhaps in their 20s or 30s. Then the younger people that read it, they informed me that they were learning from different historians that they never even heard about. Because
Mhm.
most of their historians that they learned is like a sound bite. It's like almost like a Dr. King infomercial. How about you? Like
Yeah. Well, what writers have inspired you in your life to get you to the point where you have those kinds of thoughts and that kind of desire to change the community?
quite a few writers sparked my imagination. Shakespeare, Langston Hughes, Phyllis Wheatley, uh, James Baldwin, Richard Wright, Alex Haley, E.B. Du Bois, uh, County Collins. There are so many. I could just go on and on because I think what sparked me was the civil rights struggle. Um, it was something about like Dr. King, Malcolm X, and also John F. Kennedy. Something about the 60s that really gave me my drive because I think that was one of the most pivotal moments of America.
Mhm.
that I've ever. I wasn't around, but I witnessed footage of it.
Sure.
And
Well, I was around.
okay,
Now, good. Well,
okay,
you have been inspired by a lot of great writers, and hopefully, with this book, you will inspire others to greater things in your community. And we wish you the very best of luck in that.
thank you very much, Paul.
You bet. And
Thank you.
thanks so much for joining us today, Cornelius. And thank you for joining us today on Global Book
Okay.
Network and just spending a few minutes with us. I'm Paul Ryden. We'll see you next time.